In this video, we're going to take a look at how to write a function in a standard module. When you create a function in a standard module, you can use that function in queries, or you can use it in a control on a form. The difference between writing a function in a standard module and writing a function in a class module for a form is that in a class module, it is only available for that form. If you put it in a standard module, you can use that function in multiple places in your database. So I have open here an order table in the Northwind database. And let's say that the due date for an order is going to be 30 days after the greater of these two values. So 30 days after the greater between September 1st for this record or August 16th for this record. So what happens is we're going to send these two values for each record as arguments to the function. We're going to make a decision which one is greater, and then we're going to add 30 days to the greater of the two. So let's start by creating a function. Now when you create, first of all, you have to create a standard module, okay? So I'm on the Create tab, and here's Module. Over here in my navigation pane, you will see that there are already a couple of modules set up in the Northwind database. I'm going to create a new module. Okay, that's simple, and notice by default it's called Module 1 here. We're going to change that. They're going to prompt us to save that. So I want to add a function. So we're going to do insert procedure. Then it's going to give you a prompt of what type. A property, a function, a sub, and we're going to type a function. Let's call it due date. Okay, and make it public, and click OK, and there goes my function due date. Well, in due date, we're going to have two parameters, and one's going to be the required date. You get to make the name of this up. So one's going to be the ship date. So let's just say you just want SH date. So it does not need to be the same name as the fields do. So, but I am going to put in here as date, so we know the data type. Okay. Now a function returns one value, and you know in Visual Basic the value of the function you put in the function header. So this function called due date is going to return a value, and that value will be of data type date. If you created functions in Visual Basic 2008 or Visual Basic 2010, one change between how you do it in VBA and Visual Basic is that there is not a return keyword in VBA. So we'll get to that in a minute. So I assume that two dates are being sent to me, and I need to know the greater of them. So I'm going to start with an if sign, if statement, excuse me, if required date is greater than ship date. Then what am I going to do? Then I'm going to calculate the due date. All right. Notice that due date and due date here are the same. This is how a function in VBA returns a value. It's going to return due date simply because this is the same name as due date. If you create a function and you do not assign a value to the function name, then nothing gets returned. It returns a null. Okay, so there is another thing I wanted to do was look at this date add function. This is a built-in VB function. And I'm going to highlight it and hit F1, access help. Take a little look at this date add function and what it does. The date add function takes three values, the interval. So what are we adding? Are we adding seconds? Are we adding days? Are we adding months? Are we adding years? That's what the interval does. Notice it's required. The number. Oh, you're adding years. How many years? 4 years? 80 years? And then the date, and the date will be then one of these two values here. Okay, so let's take a look at how it expects that interval to look like. So the interval argument is a string, and if it was years, you would be putting in quote y quote. You know, quarters. Are you adding months? What we're adding is days, but you see there's a lot of possibilities of how you can format that interval. The second argument is just the date, how many days I will be adding. So let's take a look at an example. So in this example, we're using months, 1 month is being added to that date. Okay, so got that. So I will be adding today, how many days? 30. From what? Well, required date is greater, right? Because that's what the if statement told me. So in this case, 30 days from the required date. In the else clause, there's another difference, is that it doesn't automatically line that up. But in the else clause, the due date will be date add D 30, but because I'm in the else clause, the shipping date must have been later. And if. That's it. That is it for a function. This function now will make a decision and return the value of a date. So let's give it a save, and when you save it, it asks you what you want to name the modules, and I'm going to call it BAS for basic functions. Okay, basic functions, and close that out. Next thing I want to do is, let's say I want to use that function in a query. So I'm going to create a new query. I'm on the Create tab, and there it is, Query Design, and use the orders table we were just looking at. Okay, and let's say I want the order ID, the customer ID. Let's show the required date, the ship date, and let's go ahead and look at how you now will use that function we just created right here in a query. So I'm going to go to the expression builder. I am in an empty field. Here's the field row, and I'm right mouse clicking, and I'm going to go to build. So from build, notice in the expression elements, these are the elements you use to build your expression. I'm going to go to Northwind. That's the name of this file. So we have built-in functions. In fact, if you took a look, date add is one of the built-in functions we used when we were writing our function code itself. But the functions that you write are here in the name of the database. So if your database was called something else, that's what the name would be showing right here. Here's your custom ones that you create. Now these are the modules, and remember the module, I saved our module as BAS functions, and here is the one function. But if you can make many functions in here, so every function you created you would show here. Okay, remember the two parameters? They show up here in the expression builder window as something that I need to supply a value for. So I'm going to get the required date from that orders table. Okay, not from a query, from the table. So notice how I'm expanding this. I went to the database, expanded it, the table, expanded it, and I'm going to come down to orders, and the required date field is right there. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing for ship date, and I'm all done. So there is my expression that's calling the custom function that we created. Something about Access, when you do an expression like this, Access defaults the title to expression 1, so I want to call it due date. You can call it whatever you want to. It does not need to be the same name as the function, but it just makes sense to me. And let's run it. And as you see, I've got an error. It looks like, so I've got an error and everything's 1900 instead of 94 like it should be. Okay. So let's go back over. I'm going to hit Alt F11, go back over, and let's rerun this and see if we can figure out what's going on. So I'm going to go back to Design View and back to Run again. And when I do that, notice how I put a break right there? I know I did that pretty fast. But, well, that's correct. And that's correct. And look, I spelled required date wrong. Do you see that? I got required date, and I spelled it required date here. Okay, and shipping date, so I'm going to hit F8, F8, yeah, okay, and so I'm thinking I'm okay. I'm going to take that break out and let it finish running. I'm going to hit the Run Continue button there, come back over, that seemed to fix it. Okay, so a little tip on debugging. So I hope this helps you to figure out the purpose of functions and how you can write functions in a standard module.